Welcome to the Escape into Board Games podcast.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt.
And this is our escape from the real world where we talk about board games. In this episode, we explore games that cascade.
So please join us for the Escape into Board Games podcast. In this podcast, we like to explore different topics, themes, and mechanisms in board gaming.
We continue with that tradition by looking at games that have a particular attribute.
Like a Rube Goldberg machine, dominoes falling, or 3 cherries on roulette, some games will offer a big payout when conditions are right.
There are games where an in-game situation can trigger other actions, rewards, or payouts that are successively passed on.
So join us as we talk about Games That Cascade.
Games That Cascade, Matt. This is an interesting subject that we've decided to talk about. It's not one that I've thought about before, and I had to really sort of stretch my mind to sort of figure it out. And I'm still not sure that I've got the concept completely down.
Yeah.
And or what sort of distinguishes Games That Cascade from other kinds of games that do similar
things
together things. Yeah.
I mean, it's human nature to try to compartmentalize these different attributes, mechanisms, and things in board gaming and try to put a name on it, try to put a thumb on it and say, hey, that's what that is.
Yeah.
And this isn't one of those things. This is more like a feeling you get when you're playing the game.
Right.
Of that big windfall, that giant, a bunch of stuff's all happening now all at once. Before, the game is just going along, but then now a lot of things are happening. Whether it's like a big payout, like you're gaining a bunch of resources all at once, or, a bunch of things being triggered, a bunch of upgrades happening, whatever it is.
The general concept is you take an action on your turn, and that triggers a chain reaction of other things that happen either immediately after or literally in the same moment.
Yeah.
And the first example of a game that I want to bring up, and I wonder if this sort of fits your definition, is that original classic board game Mousetrap.
Oh, yeah.
That would qualify as a game that cascades?
Yeah, it kind of is.
Okay, that's the one I'm going to talk about then. Here we go. Mousetrap. No, I'm kidding. But if I remember that correctly, it literally was that Rube Goldberg machine, right?
Yeah.
It was, the marble slides across the top bar and it hits this thing that makes this thing fly across, that makes it move, and then it drops the trap on top of the mouse kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, in the game Mousetrap, if I'm remembering correctly, the game is you building that machine as you go along. And you have to make sure you're setting it all up correctly, because if one thing is wrong, then it won't trigger completely.
Right.
And in this episode, we're going to be presenting games that do trigger correctly. And you don't necessarily have to set up the conditions for that to happen. These triggers will happen from a natural state of the game or from an evolved state of the game.
Yeah.
The name Cascade comes from a favorite family game that we play.
Okay.
Anomia. Anomia is a real-time pattern recognition word association party game for 3 to 6 players, ages 10 and up, that plays in about 30 minutes. Anomia was designed by Andrew Innes and published by Anomia Press in 2010. This is what is written on the first panel of the small sheet of instructions.
Okay.
Anomia. Noun. 1. A problem with word finding or recall. 2. Chaos. 3. The game where common knowledge becomes uncommonly fun.
Okay.
So Anomia is a deck of cards, and on those cards are a symbol and some text. There are 8 different kinds of symbols that can be on these cards, like 4 red dots, a purple equals sign, blue hashtag, yellow diamond, green plus.
Okay.
The text could be power tool, talk show host, superpower, or guitarist.
Okay.
Learning the game is incredibly easy. And in fact, they tell you to set up the game and teach it and play it all at the same time.
Wow.
On your turn, you pick up a single card from the face down pile at the center of the table and you flip it face up in front of you. If the symbol on your new card matches anybody else's card that's face up in front of them, then the two of you are locked in a face-off. And what they have to do at that point is read the other player's card and come up with a person, place, or thing before the other player does.
Right. If my card matches your card that you just flipped up and your card says superpower, I have to say the ability to fly or
X-ray vision.
Invisibility.
Yeah, before I look at yours, it says power tool before I say drill.
Cool.
Right?
Yep.
If the players tie, if they say words at the same time, which quite often happens, then they simply say a second word.
Oh, neat.
And then sometimes you're saying 2, 3, 4 words in a row, right? It's very chaotic and it's very fast.
Right.
The winner of the face-off gets the loser's card added to their victory pile. The player with the most cards is the winner.
Cool.
Such a simple and chaotic game because you're doing that very familiar thing where you're doing the pattern recognition. You're looking for, I've got a green plus in front of me. I'm looking for a green plus, who got the green plus? But then when you finally see that green plus, your brain has to switch from the right brain activity to the left brain activity and recall the name of a celebrity or a poet or a name of a lake or something like that.
Yeah.
And it creates these brain fart moments where you're just like,
yes. I can't think fast enough. What is that thing called? We've talked about that before, this sort of idea of it's a left brain thing versus, and then switching to a right brain thing.
Right, yeah.
And I don't really know if that's, scientifically correct.
Oh, it's not, but it is one of those things because you're obsessed with doing one activity.
Yeah.
That is definitely like a visual pattern recognition is a different set of brain cells doing that activity. And then the recall of a random thing. Like, could you name a playwright right now?
Yeah. And doing it in real time as fast as you can.
With the pressure of knowing the other player is going to try to come up with their thing at the same time.
It feels very much like there's this tiny little bridge in your brain and you have to cross it as fast as you can.
Right.
Yeah, it feels like a left brain, right brain blockage of some kind.
Yeah.
I've never played Anomia. I actually have a copy, but it's sitting on that shelf of shame. It's one that we've not played. So,
uh-oh.
Yeah.
You need 3 or 4 players. It goes up to 6. It doesn't work very well with a low player count. So you definitely want like 5 would be good.
Yeah, I'll have to bring it out at the next big family game night because it sounds fun and easy to learn.
It's totally chaotic. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. We play with the rule that you can't use any person, place, or thing that has ever been mentioned at the table that night. Even in casual conversation before the game started.
Oh, nice.
So if you've got your guitarist thing out there, but you've already talked about Jimi Hendrix that night, you got to talk about a different guitarist.
Right. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
That makes it extra hard.
Some of the cards are wild cards. So they'll have 2 different symbols on them. And when they come into play, they make the 2 different symbols equal to each other, which causes more face-offs.
Oh, okay.
But of course, having that extra step of pattern recognition is another hurdle that your brain has to make. Oh, now the hashtags are equal to the pluses. Okay, got it. Okay, going forward, I'll try to remember that.
Okay. So does that ever cause 3 or more players to have this face-off?
No, because only one card is being turned over at a time.
Right. Okay. And then that card...
If I'm able to say guitarist...
Eddie Van Halen.
Before you're able to say playwright... Then I take the guitarist card and I flip it face down in front of me in my victory points pile.
Okay. And now we've revealed another card underneath your pile.
That's right. Yeah. So the game will go around where you're picking up a card and putting it down in front of you and nothing happens. No face-off is triggered.
Right.
And everybody will keep doing that. Maybe we'll go around a couple of times. And so there's a small stack of face-up cards in front of you.
Right.
And so when you lose one of those cards, another one is revealed, which could cause another face-off with another player at the table.
Like right away.
right away.
Instantly.
Without anybody drawing another card.
Right.
And then the result of that face-off, someone's going to pick up a card and reveal a new card underneath, and that could trigger another face-off. And you can get 3, 4, 5, 6 face-offs in one turn.
Cool.
In the Anomia rulebook, they call that the cascade.
Nice.
And it's such a great mechanism because people aren't expecting it. And you've done the challenge and Shakespeare, I got it.
Yeah.
And you put it down, there's like a little bit of pressure, relieved that, and then you look around and you're waiting for the next player to grab the card and put it in face something that they're not moving because they've seen that there's another match. And then you'll go, before you know it, somebody screamed at you, Lake Simcoe, right? And what? What's happening?
Right.
And then they pick up the lake card in front of you. And when they do that, there's another thing underneath.
Right.
And it just keeps going. There's always somebody at the table who's like, what's happening? What's happening? And that's when you turn to them and say, the cascade.
The cascade. That's what's happening. And that's where this episode gets its name.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, I definitely have to play Anomia now.
Yeah.
All right. I get the concept. I think I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
How about Gizmos? Gizmos is an open drafting, tableau building science fiction card game for 2 to 4 players ages 14 and up that plays in about 45 minutes. Gizmos was designed by Phil Walker Harding and published by Simon in 2018. It's the great science fair, and the smartest minds from our generation have gathered to show off what they can do. You are one of the inventors competing to build the best invention, collect the most victory points, and be declared the winner. In Gizmos, players are purchasing and constructing different contraptions, different machines or gizmos that are powered from energy from the energy dispenser and placed in their tableau that will upgrade and synergize with the 4 available actions.
Okay.
The energy dispenser, it kind of looks like a futuristic gumball machine.
Yeah.
And I think it's 6 different marbles, but they're really cool looking marbles.
Yeah.
And they kind of slide out. It's kind of on a slope, this little slant, and it stops. And you can see only 6 of them.
Yeah.
If you look inside, you can see a 7th of what color will come out next, kind of thing.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
It's such a little, it's a toy factor for sure.
Yeah.
But it does offer a mechanism in that this is the pool of resources that you have to choose from. And what you get is what you get. And it's the same as a shuffled deck of cards. It's no different than the cards from Ticket to Ride.
Yeah.
The different colors are coming out in a random order, but so fun.
Yeah. And the marbles themselves have like little air pockets.
Like textured.
Yeah, inside them. So they just kind of have this sparkle to them that just makes them look like energy. It's really cool. It's heavy on the toy factor. Beautiful looking, bright colors.
Yeah.
Also in the middle of the table is sort of the cards, the market of gizmos, of machines and contraptions that you can build. And they come in 3 different levels of complexity. Level 3 being the hardest or most complex.
Most expensive, most robust.
Exactly. And each card has a cost that you have to pay in energy to build that contraption.
Yeah. Like 1 blue or 2 red.
Yeah, exactly.
At the top, it's like 6 black sometimes.
Yeah. Those cards will give you victory points at the end, but really the point of the game is that they are going to give your tableau, your engine, another thing that it will do on its turn.
Mm-hmm.
So some cards would go under filing, some cards would go under picking energy, some cards would go under building, and some would go under research. And then what happens is when you do that action, you can now do the actions on all of the cards in your tableau under the pick action.
Right. And what would those be? Like, what would some of them be?
So it might say, whenever you pick a red marble, you get another random one for free. So you reach into the back of the gumball machine and you draw one, without looking at it and add it to your storage.
That's right.
So now you've got 2 instead of the 1. When you decide to file That's when you take a card and you kind of reserve it for the future.
That's right. Yeah, there's something in the tableau that you want, but you don't have the energy to build it right away. You can take it and put it in your archive.
Exactly. That card looks great. I just don't have the energy to buy it now. I'm going to reserve it. I'm going to file it away so that no one else can get it before I do. So when you file, then you get to do all the gizmos that you've built or all the cards that you've purchased under your file action.
Yeah, I had pick under the file action. So every time I filed something, I could get a bunch of energy.
Right.
And then use that energy, right, to then take the build action to build the thing that I had filed earlier. It was a neat little sort of ping pong thing I had going on.
Cool.
Yeah.
The other action you can take is to build. So that's when you pay the energy from your storage area and you put it back into supply. And you can take one of the cards from the 3 different rows in the middle of the table and add it to your tableau. This also where you can take a card that you've filed in a previous turn and sort of reserve just for yourself and add it to your tableau. And then if you wanted to do a research action, this is where you draw a number of cards, usually 3 to start, and you look at them, you pick one and put the other 2 back at the bottom of the deck.
And these are cards that would normally be in the tableau, but you're getting them early.
Yeah, you're taking a face down one. So you're getting sort of 3 random cards. You don't know what they are, but you're hoping, that one of them needs 3 blue because I have 3 blue energy sitting there waiting, and none of the other cards have 3 blue that are available to me. So I'm trying to push my luck a little bit.
Right. And if you can't build it right away, then you can just put it in your file.
Yeah. Or you can just put it back if you can.
Cool.
And then, of course, whenever you do that action, you get to do all of the actions under your research part of your tableau.
That's right, yeah.
The game ends when one player has built either 16 gizmos or 4 of the level 3 gizmos into their tableau. So you're always checking that.
Cool.
And then each card has some points on them, and whoever has the most points wins. You can try Gizmos for free on boardgamearena.com. It just requires a free account to play Gizmos.
Some of my favorite gizmos that I had built on my most recent game went under the build action and would give me victory points if the gizmo was a certain color.
Yes.
So I had one that would give me a victory point if I built a black or red one. And then another one that would give me a victory point if I built a black or yellow one. And then another one that would give me a victory point if I built a yellow one or a blue one. So very few builds would give me less than 2 victory points. And it was so satisfying to be able to just run that over and over again.
Yeah. So for me, Gizmos is a game that cascades because you are starting with just enough of the 2 blue energy you need to build this card.
Yeah.
And then you build it and you add it to your tableau, and then you trigger the first card or any of the cards in your build tableau, and they will let you, draw this kind of card or put this kind of energy or that kind of energy or take a random energy and do different things. So I think that fits into the cascading.
Yeah. It really feels like,
Yeah,
that windfall when you're taking those later actions and later in the game after you've built up that engine.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Now, Gizmos is one of my favorite kinds of games. It's a tableau building game or an engine building game.
Okay.
Are all engine building, tableau building games a cascading game?
That's a good question. I know a Wingspan is an engine building game, and quite often that feels like it has a cascade in it when you get to take that one action that just triggers all the cards in the row and you're getting eggs and you're putting them everywhere, and right?
Yeah.
And that definitely has that feeling. But then I wouldn't call Scythe a game that has a cascade. But even though people call it an engine builder, it does have that engine building quality to it. So while I will agree that a lot of engine building games have cascade, I won't say that all of them do. And I won't say that every cascade game is an engine building game.
Yeah. I think Wingspan is actually a really great example because it's a game that, I'm not just triggering more actions or more victory points for myself, Lots of times in Wingspan, it's like everyone gets a worm or everyone can put an egg down or something like that.
Yeah.
So that it's triggering other players at the table to get these sort of simultaneous actions as well, which is kind of nice.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what Gizmos reminds me a lot of and has a cascade without the engine building?
Okay. What is it?
Potion Explosion. Potion Explosion is a pattern recognition potion brewing set collection game for 2 to 4 players, ages 8 and up, that plays in about 45 minutes. Potion Explosion was designed by Stefano Castilli, Andrea Crespi, and Lorenzo Silva, and published by Horrible Guild in 2015. In Potion Explosion, players are students competing to be the best in the class. Players are taking ingredients from the famous marble dispenser and using them to complete potions.
That marble dispenser has a really distinctive look.
Yeah, and it made quite the splash when it was released back in 2015. It has these 5 rows that each have 8 marbles, so there's about 40 marbles that you can see in the dispenser, but then there's a good portion that's hidden underneath that holds the rest of the supply. And so the rest of the marbles that are coming out are going to be a mystery, but there's got to be like almost 100 marbles in the game in red, yellow, blue, and black.
And so you put the marbles in the top of this dispenser and they kind of fall in behind the shield so you can't see what order they're in or what rows they're coming out in. And then they roll out the front into these little rows of marbles, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have around access to about 40 on your turn, and they could be in any arrangement.
Yeah.
And what you're going to be doing is taking these marbles from the dispenser and then filling your potions with them. You'll be working on 2 different potions at any given time, and they will have different requirements. Like one will need 3 red and 4 black, or one will need 2 blue, 1 yellow, and 4 red, whatever. The potions are also of different point value. Some will be worth 4 points. Some will be worth 9 points. The harder potions to make will be worth more victory points.
Right.
But the real trick to this game is how you get the marbles out of the dispenser. On your turn, you can just take any marble. And when you take that marble out of the dispenser, the rest of the marbles will slide and clack in to fill the space that was left. If the 2 marbles that clack together are the same color, you get to take those marbles too. When you remove those marbles, if 2 marbles that are the same color clack together again, well, then you get to get those marbles as well. And this process will continue if the next 2 marbles that clack together are the same color.
And it just keeps going like that until the 2 marbles that come together are of different colors. And then you have to stop.
Exactly. It could be on the very next marble, or it could be 12 marbles later.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you can set up. It's not something that you can rig.
No.
When you get that marble dispenser on your turn, it is usually in a completely different state than it was when you left it.
Yes. Yeah. And if you were able to pre-plan a turn of marbles, next time I'm going to get 12 marbles because I'm going to take this one and then this is going to happen. Well, it'll be gone the very next turn because the player to your left is going to take them.
Yeah. And people are completing their potions and taking the marbles they use to make those potions and pouring them back into the dispenser, and they will sort of trickle down into the various columns and end up back filling up the rows again in a brand new way.
And they're coming out randomly. Like there could be 3 blue ones in a row, or they could be a blue, a red, a black, a red, a blue, a red, a yellow.
Exactly.
It's totally random.
And that randomness can be kind of cruel sometimes. You could see some player get 12 marbles on their turn, but then on your turn, you only got 3.
Yeah. The luck of the marble.
Now, there are ways to mitigate that luck. You can take a teacher's help token, which will allow you to remove any single marble from the dispenser without causing an explosion and add it to your supply before taking your turn. And this way you can kind of set yourself up for a bigger or better windfall when you remove that crucial marble.
Right.
You can also drink the potions that you make. Once the potion is completed, you can ingest it to take its benefits. Depending on which potions are in the game and which potion you've completed, you could do an action like steal a bunch of supplies from another player, or use the marbles in your supply to just randomly fill those anywhere in your potions.
Yep. I had one in the game that I played that it let me take one of each color of marble that appeared in the first row.
Oh, yeah. The ones at the very bottom.
Yeah. So usually you're dealing in columns, right? So like you remove a marble from the middle of the column, and if they clank together, you take more. But this lets me, without causing an explosion, lets me take a black, a blue, and a yellow, because they're 3 different ones.
Yeah.
Amongst the different columns in that first row of marbles.
And of course, depending on when you drink that potion, could be a lot more beneficial, right?
Yes.
If there's nothing but black along the bottom, you're going to hold on to that potion until that changes.
Exactly. I kept finding myself desperately in need of one color. And so I would drink that potion just to get that one marble of that one color, because I needed it to finish this other potion that I needed.
Yeah. There'll be a certain number of potions in the game, depending on how many players are playing. But if you can complete 3 of the same potion or 5 potions that are all different, you'll get a little 4-point bonus token. There's a small supply of these tokens, and when they are depleted, the game is over.
I really like this game.
Yeah, I knew you would.
This was a lot of fun.
It's got that toy factor.
Yeah.
It's got that tactile thing.
Yeah.
But then the set collection with the added potion bonuses.
Yeah.
Right up your alley.
Currently looking for a copy. I gotta get a copy. I loved it. I really loved it. Very, very fun. One of those eye-catching, games.
Yeah, it's really well put together. Each of the potions is a thick cardboard tile that's in the shape of a little flask.
Yeah.
And on that flask are holes that the marbles can sit in so that they stay nicely secured.
Yeah, they don't roll off the table because they're in the hole, right?
Yeah.
And it just sits in there. The marble dispenser is just made out of cardboard. It's this cardboard box, basically, where the marbles slide out.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's this old wooden wizard's box.
It does. It's got little cracks on it.
Yeah.
And, there's a fly on it and stuff. It's actually has 2 different sides to it. If you can build it so that if there's a weathered side on the outside, or you can take the cardboard components and flip them over so that it's, the newer side.
No way.
It's kind of interesting. You can make it look weathered or brand new when you put it together.
That's cool. I've only ever seen the brand new version on people's game tables. I'll have to look for that.
You're right. It is only cardboard. So you would think that with almost 100 marbles inside, that it would be straining under the weight. But it's been really cleverly crafted in that the troughs are supporting each other so that there's no bowing or bending from the weight of the marbles. It's really quite well done.
Yeah.
And then once it's put together, you don't have to take it apart to put it back in the box.
Oh, the box fits it all together.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, thank goodness. It's really, really smart of them to do that.
Yeah, that would be annoying.
For sure.
Taking it apart. And it would cause a lot of wear and tear.
It would, yeah. So then you can glue it together, right? It's just cardboard. So you can just put a little bit of paper glue on there to keep the components from shifting or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the potions themselves, you mentioned that they have the holes, but they're actually, it's beautiful artwork. Like each one is its own color. There's sort of this set collection aspect going on.
Yeah.
And they have like a different bottle stopper in the top of them.
Yeah, because as you're making the potion, you're looking at the back side, and red will require red, and so they're on a red band and a blue band and a black band, and so then all the potions end up looking the same on the back. So you have to look at that stopper, the top, where the cork is.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's some green ooze seeping out. Sometimes there's a nice black embossed waxy seal on it. And of course, they have all these great names.
Elixir of Blind Love.
Potion of Wisdom.
Potion of Prismatic Joy.
Potion of Magnetical Attraction.
Sands of Time.
Abyssal Draft.
Filter of Lavamancing.
Even the ingredients have cool names.
They really do. My favorite was the black ones.
The Ogre Mucus.
Yes, the Ogre Mucus. Yes, that's awesome.
The blue ones are Unicorn Tears.
Red were Dragon Smoke.
And the yellow was Fairy Dandruff.
Fairy Dandruff. Very good.
It's awesome. Potion Explosion is also on boardgamearena.com, but you'll require a premium account. I like how Potion Explosion and Gizmos both have cascading, but they're in different parts of the game. The cascade in Potion Explosion is in the picking of the ingredients and gathering of the resources, whereas in Gizmos, it's in taking of the actions. And the marble dispenser, which is the same in both games, doesn't provide the cascade like it does in Potion Explosion.
Yeah, they look similar. They have a similar kind of theme and components, but where the cascade happens is quite different.
And they're very, very different games.
Right.
We're going to get back to the show after a brief message. This next ad is for Chris's own company, Geeky Goodies. If you'd like to hear what an ad for your game, product, or website might sound like, drop us a line at escapeintoboardgames@gmail.com. When we escape into board games, we're always wearing our Geeky Goodies t-shirts.
They are great conversation starters for gamers and non-gamers.
But did you know that they also sell drink coasters, socks, mouse pads, cupcake toppers, and so much more?
All things board games.
All things geeky.
Visit geekygoodies.com and use coupon code ESCAPE for a 10% discount off your purchase. I think I've got the best game on the list.
Okay.
Maybe not the best game. I've got the game that represents cascading the best.
Nice.
That's what I would say. This is the one that I think is the pinnacle of cascade. Yeah.
Let's hear it.
That's Pretty Clever. That's Pretty Clever, aka Ganz, Schön, Clever, is an elegant roll and write game for 1 to 4 players ages 8 and up that plays in about 30 minutes. That's Pretty Clever was designed by Wolfgang Warsch and published by Schmidtspiel in 2018. Ganz, Schön, Clever, a game about dice and numbers and writing down those numbers or crossing them off on a page. The point of the game is to efficiently enter these numbers of the dice that you've rolled onto your sheet and allow them to trigger or chain score these different opportunities on the sheet. So That's Pretty Clever is a roll and write game.
And this is my very first roll and write.
Was it really?
Did you know that?
No.
This is the very first time I played a roll and write game. And it was a gift. It was given to me. I looked at it and I was like, this is like a lottery ticket. Like it didn't seem like a, right? It seemed like a lottery ticket and a tax form.
Yes.
It just did not seem like a game. I didn't understand how this worked at all.
That's a very, very good description. I love the idea that your form that you fill out, your player board, looks like a tax form mixed with a lottery ticket.
It's sort of colored like a lottery ticket. It's got the same art style, but it's just a bunch of numbers like a T140 or something.
Yeah, exactly. So the game comes with these 6 different dice: purple, orange, green, blue, yellow, and a white die.
Yeah.
And as you roll the dice, you're going to pick a couple out and you're going to write that number in or cross off the number in the different sections that match the color of the dice.
Right.
So if you drew the purple dice and it had a 3 on it, you'd write a 3 in the little box in the purple section.
Right. Because there's a little purple section, there's an orange section, there's a green section, a blue section, a yellow section, and they're all related to the dice.
Yeah. And each of those sections works a little differently. Like, for example, on the yellow and blue section, there are just numbers. So from 1 to 6 or 2 to 12.
Like a grid.
In a grid, yeah. And if you drew the 3 yellow dice, then you would just cross off one of the number 3s in the yellow section. Mm-hmm. But if it was the green, orange, or purple section, you'd actually write that number down. So if the orange dice is the one you took and it had a 5, you'd write a 5 in that, the next available square.
Yeah. And each of the rows and each of the colors has a different set of criteria and a different kind of way that you have to operate in order to be able to cross stuff off or fill it in.
Exactly. Like the orange section, you can write any number that you want. But in the purple section, you always have to be writing a number that's higher than the last one you wrote.
Oh, yeah.
So if you rolled a 2 in the first box, then a 3, 4, 5, or 6 would have to go in the next box.
Okay.
And then, of course, once you get to the 6, you can start over again at a 1 or a 2 or whatever low number you want. The other factor is many of the boxes where you're writing these numbers or crossing them off have a little icon underneath them or as part of the row or the column where you get some sort of bonus reward. So in the orange box, you might write down the number 4 because you took the orange 4. And underneath it is a little yellow square with an X through it.
Yeah.
And now what that lets you do is take that yellow X and take it to the yellow section and cross off one of the numbers that you haven't yet rolled on a yellow die.
Yeah.
So you might roll off a 1 because they're harder to roll than a 2 or 3 or a 4 kind of thing.
Yeah.
And in the yellow section, if that X crosses off an entire row, you might get to do something else, like cross off a number in the blue section or write a number in the purple section, that kind of thing.
Sure.
As well, most of these sections let you score points. So, for example, in the orange section, which is always the easiest one to explain because you can write any number you want in there.
Yeah.
If you write all 1s, each one of them is worth 1 point. Whatever you wrote is how many points you get at the end of the game for orange.
Yeah, it's so cool because you're rolling all the dice on your turn. You get to look at what dice are available and then look at your board and go, well, I mean, that's a pretty common roll, but I need that right now for purple. That's got to go. I've got to grab that.
Yeah.
But then your opponents are drafting the dice that you leave, that you don't use.
Exactly.
So everybody gets to have a turn. Everybody's doing something on every turn.
It's one of those games where there's like almost no downtime.
I love that.
You draft your dice and you are the only one who are allowed to use those. But everyone else can use any of the dice.
Yeah.
And everyone can use the same die on their sheet when it's your turn.
Yeah.
So on every turn, you're getting to do something.
That's awesome.
That's quite fun because that lets you fill out the numbers that you haven't been able to use. As well, there are some things that you can unlock that let you re-roll the dice or let you use an actual extra dice. So you use the yellow and now you can use it again, or you can use one of the dice from someone else's roll again, that kind of thing. And each section works a little differently. And rewards generally come as you fulfill more of the section. Yeah. And as it gets closer to the end, you find that the things that you're able to chain together, all the different powers, they can really, really grow. You can get a green number that lets you use another dice again, which lets you use a yellow number, which then let you complete a column, and then you can put the orange number in the orange column, which then gives you something else. And you can just chain them on and on and on and do several things on your turn. And that is where this game really shines.
Exactly.
It's an exciting game.
And it's amazing how you can roll the dice on your turn and you grab the 2 dice that you've chosen and you do what you're going to do. And then you go to pass it on to the next player, but you're like, oh no, the player to my right, who just drafted 1 die, has now got this Rube Goldberg machine of chain reactions going on. And just give me a second while carry the 1. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And you're like, what is going on? And they've just hit this jackpot of ricochets around their board where they get to do all these things. Well, if I did it this way and then over here first, then I would get this. It's so satisfying.
Yeah, I think of it as kind of like a tabletop pinball game. Yeah. Because you're just using the dice and crossing off numbers or writing numbers in there, but they're sort of bouncing around all the different colored sections of your sheet. Yeah. And these sheets are just little, half of an 8.5 by 11 sheet. Yeah. And there's just so much variety and excitement in all of them. It's one of our favorite of the roll and write games, and we've played it a lot.
Nice. Yeah.
Sherry and I both really love this game, and we play it quite a bit.
Yeah, it was a huge hit. Last summer we were playing a lot of it.
Yeah, it's really, I think, added quite a bit to the roll and write market.
So, do you know what I mean by cascade?
Yes. I think I do now. Yeah. I think that Some games do it a little bit more than others.
Sure. Yeah.
And a lot of these sort of engine building games do some sort of version of Cascade. I like ones like Wingspan that let other players do things on their turn, like the Cascade extends to other players.
Sure. Yeah. I like ones that don't necessarily need the perfect setup in order to work. The mousetrap example, like that's not ideal. And if you're playing your first game of Wingspan, chances are you're not going to get that terrific cascade where a bunch of stuff ping pongs around and gives you all the resources and that really satisfying feeling. It'll be a few plays in before you're there.
That's a very good point. Yeah. It takes a little bit of skill to work that sort of ricochet or that cascade into its optimal position in games like Wingspan. And even that's pretty clever. Now, we didn't talk about Wingspan in this episode because we had talked about it in our Great Games for Giving episode.
That's right. Yeah.
People can go back and listen to that.
I'm curious if our listeners know of any games that have Cascade in them, and particularly the Cascade that just is in the game as opposed to something that's user-generated.
Yes, I'd like to hear more. I think it is a little subjective.
Oh, for sure.
Is that Cascade or is it just engine building? And I'd like to hear people's thoughts. Like, what are the best Cascade games? Because I'd like to give some of them a try that I haven't played already.
Have you played any of the games that we've talked about today? What are your favorite games that cascade? Drop us a line at escapeintoboardgames@gmail.com. Thanks for listening to the Escape Into Board Games podcast. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Escape Into Board Games. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps more people discover Escape Into Board Games, and you can get an Escape Into Board Games t-shirt at geekygoodies.com/escapeintoboardgames. Or you can help us fuel the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/escapeintoBGS.
This episode is produced by Matt McKenzie and Chris Cormier. Sound editing by Matt McKenzie. Production assistance by Sherry Cormier. Music by John Yasut and Daniel Carlton. See you at the next escape.